My son looked me dead in the eye as he stole my $77 million winning lottery ticket and uttered the 5 words that ignited a war. Poor Dad, your mind is gone. He and his wife thought they had finally broken me, leaving me powerless in the gilded cage they built with my own money. But they forgot my wife's true inheritance, a secret notebook that documented their every sin. They thought they stole my ticket to freedom. They never imagined I would use their betrayal as a ticket to orchestrate their permanent public ruin. Before I tell you how it all began, I'd love to know where you're listening from tonight. Let's build a community right here in the comments. Tuesday, May 22nd, was supposed to be a day of cake and candles. It was Eleanor's birthday. From the window of my son's minimalist guest room, which they were already hinting would soon be relocated to the finished attic, I watched the gray Pittsburgh sky hang heavy over the manicured lawns. My wife would have been 73. Instead of celebrating, I was just trying to survive. My morning ritual, the only thing that was truly mine anymore, began with a walk. I left the sterile quiet of Kevin and Brenda's house, a place of glass walls and cold leather, and made my way toward the familiar grit of our old neighborhood. The air here still smelled faintly of steel and rain, a scent that always felt more like home than the plug-in air fresheners Brenda favored. For 10 years, ever since Eleanor first got sick, I'd done this every single day. One walk, one corner store, one lottery ticket. The usual, Tyler? Sal, the store owner, asked, his face a friendly map of wrinkles. You know it, Sal. I slid a crumpled dollar bill across the counter. It was part of the small cash allowance Kevin gave me each week from my own pension, the one he now managed for me. He said it was to protect me from scams. I knew it was to protect my money from me. I watched Sal print the ticket. The numbers were always the same, a constellation of our life together. 8 for the day we met in the 16th of August for our wedding anniversary. 24 for the street number of the house where we raised Kevin. 35 for the years we worked side by side at the mill. 42 for the age she was when she finally beat cancer the first time. The Powerball was 10 for the decade I'd been buying these tickets since she was gone. It was a prayer printed on a slip of paper. Returning to what they called home was like stepping into a different country. Brenda was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone, her face illuminated by the screen. She was a lifestyle blogger, though her main lifestyle seemed to be spending the money I'd saved over 45 years of backbreaking work. Oh, Tyler, you're back, she said, not looking up. Kevin and I were just talking. The contractor thinks he can have the attic insulated and drywalled by July. It'll be so much more private for you up there. The words were delivered with the sweetness of arsenic. More private. They meant more invisible. It was the latest phase of their campaign, a slow, methodical erasure that had started 2 years ago. It began with them taking over my finances to simplify things, then selling my house because the upkeep was too much for a man your age. Now, they were preparing to move me into the attic of the house they bought with my money. Kevin walked in, dressed in a suit that cost more than my first car. As a financial advisor, he looked the part. He'd built a respectable business, advising other retirees in the community on how to protect their nest eggs. The irony was a constant bitter taste in my mouth. Dad, did you remember to call the pharmacy about your prescription refill? He asked, his tone laced with that familiar, patronizing concern. I hadn't, because he was the one who was supposed to call. It was another one of their little tests. Another brick in the wall they were building around my mind, trying to convince me it was crumbling. It slipped my mind, son, I mumbled, the lie feeling heavy on my tongue. See, Brenda? This is what I'm talking about, he said, shaking his head. We need to be more proactive. I didn't wait to hear the rest. I retreated to my room, the expensive suit and the talk of my incompetence chasing me down the hall. I closed the door, the silence a temporary shield. My hands trembled slightly as I took the lottery ticket from my pocket. It was flimsy and insignificant, a foolish hope against an overwhelming reality. But it was mine. I slipped it into the worn leather of my wallet, right behind the faded, dog-eared photograph of Eleanor. It wasn't just a ticket. It was a secret, a conversation with my wife that no one else could hear. And in this house, secrets were the only things that kept me sane. That night, a heavy silence settled over the house, the kind that feels louder than noise. Brenda was at her yoga class, and Kevin was in his home office, likely devising new ways to manage my life into non-existence. I was in the living room, staring at a stack of mail on the coffee table he'd left for me to sort through. It was another of his tests, a way to see if I was still competent enough to handle envelopes. He emerged from his office around 9, holding a letter. "Dad, I found this mixed in with the junk mail. It's from Dr. Evans' office, a reminder for your checkup next month." He placed it in front of me, his expression a careful performance of concern. "This is the second reminder they've sent. Did you forget about it again?" My mind raced. I didn't remember seeing the first one. Had he hidden it, or had I truly forgotten? The seed of doubt he'd planted years ago was now a thorny vine wrapped around my thoughts. I must have," I stammered, hating the weakness in my voice. "It's all right," he said, patting my shoulder. The gesture felt condescending, not comforting. "I'll call and confirm for you tomorrow. We can't have you missing these things. It's important to stay on top of your health." His words were a cage, each one a bar locking me further into the role of a frail, forgetful old man. He saw me as a liability to be managed, a problem to be solved with an attic renovation and a carefully controlled allowance. After he and Brenda went to bed, I was left alone with the low drone of the television. The late news was on, a procession of local tragedies and political squabbles that felt a world away. I was about to turn it off when the familiar, upbeat jingle for the Powerball drawing started. "Tonight's estimated jackpot, $77 million, a cheerful voice announced. I watched out of habit, my heart heavy. The first white ball dropped. Number 8, a faint echo in my mind. Eleanor and I met in August. The second ball, number 16. My chest tightened. Our anniversary. The third, 24. I sat bolt upright on the couch. The number of our old house. The fourth ball tumbled into place. 35. My breath hitched. The years we worked at the mill. The fifth. 42. It couldn't be. My hands began to shake violently. Then came the red Powerball. The machine whirred, and the final number settled. 10. For a moment, there was no air in the room. The anchor's voice faded into a meaningless buzz. It was a perfect match, every single number. My hands, clumsy and trembling, fumbled for my wallet. I pulled out the ticket, my eyes scanning the impossible sequence printed in black ink, then darting back to the glowing numbers on the screen. They were the same. A voice in my head, a voice that sounded so much like Eleanor's potus, whispered a single word: "Run." Dawn on Wednesday brought a frantic, fragile hope. I hadn't slept, instead spending the night sitting in a chair by the window, my hand resting on the wallet in my pocket as if it were a sacred relic. $77 million. The number was a shield, a sword, a key to a door I thought had been locked forever. My plan was simple: get to the lottery office in Harrisburg before Kevin and Brenda even knew I was gone. I dressed quietly in the pre-dawn gloom, my movements deliberate. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't feel like a ghost in my own life. I felt solid. I felt powerful. As I opened my bedroom door and stepped into the hallway, however, my newfound confidence faltered. They were both there, sitting at the kitchen table, nursing cups of coffee, waiting. "Morning, Dad," Kevin said, his voice unnervingly calm. "Up early today." Brenda offered a tight smile. "I was just doing a bit of tidying this morning and found something in the pocket of your jacket from yesterday. You should be more careful with your things." She slid a lottery ticket across the polished granite tabletop. My heart hammered against my ribs. "I was just about to head out," I said, my voice hoarse. "I need to get that verified." "Verified?" Brenda raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Tyler, honey, what are you talking about?" This was it. The moment of liberation. "That ticket," I said, pointing a trembling finger. "It won, last night. All the numbers." Kevin and Brenda exchanged a look, not of shock or excitement, but of profound, theatrical pity. "Oh, Dad," Kevin said, his voice soft and laced with sorrow. "I think you might be confused." "I'm not confused," I snapped, snatching the ticket from the table. The numbers stared back at me, the beautiful, life-altering sequence. 8, 16, 24, 35, 42, and the Powerball 10. "See? It's all there. Is Benda there?" Kevin gently took the ticket from my grasp. "The numbers are right, Dad. You have a great memory for your numbers." He then turned it over in his hand and pointed to the top. "But look at the date. Just look at the date printed here." My eyes followed his finger. The numbers were clear. Play date: 2 May 152025. May 15th. A week ago. My blood ran cold. "No," I whispered. "That's not possible. I bought it yesterday, May 22nd. Things have the 10th, end quote. Quote, "You buy one every day, Dad," Brenda said softly, as if explaining something to a child. "You must have gotten them mixed up. This is last week's ticket. It's worthless." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. I stared at the date, my mind refusing to process it. How could this be? I was so sure. But the evidence was right there, printed in official, undeniable ink. All their whispers, all their tests, all their carefully planted seeds of doubt exploded in my head. He's forgetting things. His memory is getting worse. I wasn't just a victim of their manipulation anymore. I was a casualty of my own failing mind. The $77 million dream didn't just die. It had never existed at all. It was a phantom conjured by a senile old man. I stumbled back to my room without another word, the sound of their soft, concerned murmurs following me like vultures. I had lost more than a fortune. I had lost my own reality. The afternoon passed in a fog of quiet shame. I lay on my bed, the curtains drawn, letting the gloom of the room seep into me. They had won. It wasn't just the money. They had taken my confidence, my memories, my sanity. I was exactly who they'd told me I was, a confused old man whose mind was playing tricks on him. In the depths of that despair, I felt a desperate need for Eleanor, not just her memory, but something tangible. I pulled her old oak keepsake box from the back of the closet. The scent of cedar and lavender, her scent, drifted up as I lifted the lid. Inside lay the artifacts of our shared life. Faded photographs, a dried corsage from our wedding, a collection of seashells from a long-ago vacation. I ran my fingers over them, searching for a comfort that felt impossibly distant. Underneath a stack of old letters, my fingers brushed against the spine of something hard. It was a small, leather-bound notebook I didn't recognize. Curiosity pierced through my grief. I opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a ledger. Eleanor's neat, elegant script filled the pages, but the words were cold, hard facts. The 17th of October, 2022. Loan to Kevin for car repairs $3,000. Found receipt from a luxury watch store. The 8th of February, 2023. Brenda needed $1,500 for a medical emergency. Saw her with a new designer coat the next week. Page after page, it was a meticulous record of their deceit, a secret history of their greed. She had seen it all, documented it all. The sickness in my stomach wasn't from grief anymore. It was from a slow-dawning, horrifying clarity. They hadn't just started manipulating me now. They had been bleeding us dry for years, even when Eleanor was alive. I turned to the final page. Her handwriting was a little shaky, dated just a month before she passed away. It was a direct message to me. "My dearest Tyler," it began. "If you are reading this, it means I am gone, and you are facing them alone. I have to warn you. I know our son. I know his ambition, and I know his wife's greed. They see your kindness as weakness. If by some miracle our numbers ever bring you a fortune, I beg you, do not trust them. He will lie. He will tell you that you are confused. He will find a way to take it from you, and he will call it helping. Please, my love, promise me you will protect yourself." The fog in my mind didn't just lift. It evaporated in a flash of heat. I wasn't confused. I wasn't senile. I had been systematically, cruelly conned. The date on that ticket wasn't a mistake of my aging mind. It was an act of calculated theft. It wasn't grief that filled me now. It was rage. A cold, clear, calculating rage. Eleanor hadn't just left me memories. She had left me a weapon. Thursday was a day of calculated silence. The broken old man from yesterday was gone, replaced by someone cold and sharp, a version of myself I hadn't met in years. I went down for breakfast and played my part, moving slowly, staring into my oatmeal, letting them see the defeated shell they had created. It worked. Kevin and Brenda treated me with a gentle condescension, confident that their victim was fully subdued. "I'm going out for a walk," I announced quietly after breakfast. "Just need some air." "Of course, Dad," Kevin said, already distracted by his phone. "Don't get lost." My first stop was not a park. It was a small copy shop on the other side of town. I stood over the machine, feeding each page of Eleanor's notebook onto the glass. The hum of the copier, a quiet drumbeat of war. I made 3 copies, placing each set into a separate manila envelope. The original notebook went back into my coat, zipped securely in an inner pocket. It was the heart of my operation. My second stop was Sal's corner store. The bell above the door chimed, a familiar, comforting sound. "Back again, Tyler?" Sal smiled. "Sal, I need a favor," I said, keeping my voice low. My son, the financial advisor, he wants records of all my spending for tax purposes. Could you possibly reprint the receipt for the ticket I bought on Tuesday morning, the one around 9 o'clock? Sure thing, Tyler. This new computer system keeps track of everything. He tapped a few keys, and a small slip of paper spooled out of the machine. He handed it to me. There it was, Henderson's Corner Store, 9:14 a.m., 2 May 2, 22025. And below the total, a long string of numbers, the ticket's serial number. It was the piece of irrefutable proof I needed. It was the nail for their coffin. With the evidence secured, I spent the afternoon on a park bench, not enjoying the sun, but planning. I was no longer a father grieving a betrayal. I was a tactician mapping out a battlefield. I knew what I had to do. Eleanor's warning wasn't just a call to protect myself. It was a demand for justice. That evening, I waited until I could hear the clink of wine glasses from the dining room, the sound of their self-congratulatory celebration. I walked into the kitchen and picked up the phone. I dialed Kevin's cell. He answered on the second ring, his voice slick with false patience. Yes, Dad? Are you okay? I'm fine, son, I said, my voice deliberately flat, empty of emotion. I've been thinking. You and Brenda are right. I'm not well. I need help. I let the lie hang in the air. A perfect bait. I could almost hear the triumphant smirk on his face. Let's have a family meeting tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. We need to talk about my future. At precisely 7 o'clock on Friday evening, the doorbell chimed, a crisp, clean sound in the oppressive silence of the house. I had spent the day honing my grief into a weapon, sharpening my resolve on the whetstone of Eleanor's memory. When I opened the door, they were perfectly cast for their roles. Kevin, the concerned son, holding a bottle of Merlot like a peace offering. Brenda, the dutiful daughter-in-law, clutching a glossy folder to her chest like a prayer book. They thought they were missionaries coming to save a lost soul. They had no idea they were lambs walking into a slaughterhouse. Dad, we were so worried. We're glad you called, Kevin said, his voice a smooth, practiced balm as he stepped inside. They moved into the living room, their confidence filling the space, displacing the very air I breathed. I said nothing. I simply watched them settle onto their white leather sofa, a throne from which they had passed judgment on me for 2 years. Brenda placed her folder on the coffee table and opened it with a flourish, fanning out the brochures like a winning hand of cards. Each one was a portrait of a sanitized old age, gleaming facilities, manicured gardens, and perpetually cheerful seniors engaged in benign activities. Maplebrook Senior Community. The golden years redefined. We spent all day looking into these for you, Tyler, she began, her voice a symphony of counterfeit compassion. They are the best in the state. Chef-prepared meals, on-site nurses, even a heated pool. You'd be safe there, cared for. Controlled, my mind corrected. Contained. It's not just about safety, Dad, Kevin chimed in, leaning forward with an air of grave sincerity. It's about dignity. After the confusion with the lottery ticket, it became clear to us that you're struggling. We can't, in good conscience, allow you to continue on like this. It's our responsibility to make sure you're looked after properly. There's our nephew in the greenback. Responsibility. The word hung in the air, grotesque and obscene. I let it hang. I let the silence stretch, a taut wire humming with unspoken truths. I saw their faces shift, the practiced masks of concern beginning to feel heavy. A flicker of annoyance crossed Brenda's eyes. Impatience tightened the corner of Kevin's mouth. They had expected tears. They had expected gratitude. They were not prepared for the stillness that met them, the unnerving calm in the eyes of the man they had written off as a broken relic. When I finally moved, my actions were slow, deliberate. I walked to the mahogany side table, a piece of furniture that had once belonged to Eleanor's mother. On it, I had placed a single manila envelope. My hand did not shake as I picked it up. It felt solid, righteous, heavy with the truth. I walked back to the coffee table and placed the envelope directly on top of a picture of a smiling couple playing bridge. The plain brown paper was a stark contrast to the glossy marketing. I looked at them, truly looked at them, perhaps for the first time since their mother had died. And they looked back, their predatory instincts finally sensing that the wounded animal they had cornered was not wounded at all. Before we discussed the final chapter of my life, I said, my voice resonating with a strength I thought I had lost forever, I think it's time we read the early chapters of yours. Kevin stared at the plain manila envelope, as if it were a declaration of war. Brenda's practiced smile had shattered, leaving behind something sharp and ugly. I didn't give them time to recover. With a steady hand, I opened the clasp and let the contents spill across the coffee table, a chaotic flurry of photocopied pages that settled like fallen leaves on the pristine surface. Each one was a testament to their betrayal, penned in Eleanor's graceful, damning script. The color drained from Kevin's face. Brenda let out a small, strangled gasp. They knew that handwriting better than they knew their own consciences. "Your mother," I began, my voice a low rumble that seemed to shake the very glass walls of the room, "was a woman who believed in the truth." I picked up the first page, the paper feeling heavy, sacred. "Let's begin with a truth from the 17th of October, 2022. You came to us, Kevin, your face a mask of worry, needing $3,000 for a new transmission for your car." "This is insane," Kevin whispered, but his eyes betrayed him, darting around the room as if seeking an escape. "What was truly insane," I countered, my voice rising, "was your mother finding the receipt from a Rolex dealer tucked away in your glove box. An anniversary gift for Brenda, wasn't it?" I slid a copy of the receipt across the table. It landed beside Brenda's hand, and she recoiled as if it were white-hot. Eleanor found it by chance, but after that, she was no longer blind. She started watching. She started writing. I let the pages fall from my fingers, one by one, each one a fresh indictment. The $1,500 for Brenda's emergency root canal that became a designer coat. The $5,000 for an unbeatable investment opportunity that became a first-class trip to Aruba. The $10,000 for a leaky roof that somehow transformed into a state-of-the-art outdoor kitchen. Each memory was a fresh wound, a betrayal I was only now allowing myself to feel. She documented it all, every lie, every dollar. She watched you both smile at her, hug her, tell her you loved her, all while you were picking her pockets clean. She was sick, Brenda finally shrieked, her voice cracking. She was paranoid. She was imagining things. She was dying, I roared, the sound exploding from a place of grief so deep I hadn't known it existed. The room fell into a stunned silence, broken only by my ragged breathing. She was dying, and instead of cherishing the time she had left, you saw it as your final opportunity to cash in. You took her money, you took her peace of mind, and you broke her heart long before her body gave out. Kevin finally rose to his feet, a pathetic imitation of defiance. "This doesn't prove anything. It's just the bitter scribblings of a dying woman." Brenda joined him, her face a snarl of desperation. "He's right. It's her word against ours. And what about you?" she spat, her finger jabbing the air in my direction. "The man who couldn't even read a lottery ticket correctly. You're a confused, senile old man. You have nothing. You are nothing." In the ringing silence that followed Brenda's shriek, I felt a strange sense of calm descend. Her insults, meant to be daggers, couldn't touch me. They were the desperate flailings of a cornered animal. I let her words hang in the air, savoring the moment before I destroyed them completely. "You're right," I said, my voice quiet, almost conversational. The sudden shift in volume caught them off guard. "I am a confused, senile old man, the man who couldn't even read a lottery ticket correctly. So, let's talk about that ticket." I reached into my shirt pocket, the one place they hadn't thought to check, and pulled out a small, folded slip of paper. It wasn't a lottery ticket. It was the receipt from Sal's store. I smoothed it out and placed it on the table. "This," I said, "is a receipt from Henderson's Corner Store, timed at 9:14 a.m. on Tuesday, May 22nd. It's for a single Powerball ticket, and right here," I tapped the bottom of the slip, "is the ticket's unique serial number. The Lottery Commission keeps very detailed records, you see. They know which ticket was printed where and at what time, and they know which serial number is worth $77 million. Kevin's face went slack with horror. He understood immediately. This wasn't about memory. This was about proof. "The ticket you stole from me is now just a piece of paper with a serial number that links it directly to my purchase," I explained calmly. "If you try to cash it, an alarm will be raised. They will check the store's security footage. They will see me, buying my ticket at my usual time. And then, a different kind of investigator will come knocking on your door. They call it grand larceny, I believe. A felony. The trap had sprung. They were frozen, caught between a fortune they couldn't claim and a prison sentence they couldn't escape. The wine bottle on the table seemed to mock them, a symbol of a celebration that would never happen. But I wasn't finished. The rage I had felt earlier had cooled into something far more dangerous. Purpose. But this was never just about the money, was it? I continued, my gaze shifting to Kevin. It's about your reputation, the trusted financial advisor who helps retirees protect their life savings. I reached for another envelope on the side table, this one thicker. Your mother's notebook is a fascinating read, but what's even more fascinating is when you cross-reference her notes with a list of your clients. Thanks for watching Which Sees in the Stereus. I let the envelope fall open, revealing a list of names. Mrs. Gable, Mr. Henderson, the Millers, all friends of mine, all people who trusted you because you were my son. I wonder how they would feel if they knew how you managed your own father's finances. I pulled out a business card and placed it on top of the pile. I have an appointment on Monday morning, not with the Lottery Commission, but with Sarah Jenkins, an investigative reporter at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. She's very interested in stories about the financial exploitation of the elderly. I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a whisper. I'm going to give her this notebook. I'm going to give her this client list. And I'm going to tell her the heartwarming story of my loving son and daughter-in-law. You are not just going to lose $77 million, Kevin. You are going to lose everything. A week later, Pittsburgh greeted the first day of June with a brilliant, cloudless sky. From the balcony of my new apartment, a place that was truly mine, I could see the Allegheny River gleaming in the morning sun. The air felt clean. For the first time in years, I could breathe. I didn't need to watch the news or seek out gossip. The consequences of that Friday night meeting had rippled through the city with the force of a tidal wave. The truth, once unleashed, had become a force of nature. I opened my laptop, and there it was. The front page of the Pittsburgh Post. Gazette's website was a masterpiece of public demolition. The headline was stark, brutal, and beautiful. Pittsburgh financial advisor accused of defrauding elderly clients, starting with his own father. Beneath it was a photo of Kevin and Brenda, caught leaving their house, their faces contorted in a mixture of fury and shame as they shielded themselves from the camera. The article itself was devastating. Sarah Jenkins had woven a narrative of predatory greed, using quotes from Eleanor's notebook that were so poignant, so full of heartbreak, they leaped off the page. The story of the stolen lottery ticket was presented not just as theft, but as an act of profound psychological cruelty. The article ended with a link to a newly established legal fund and a hotline for other potential victims of Kevin Brooks' financial services. The fallout had been immediate and catastrophic. I learned from my lawyer, who had been in contact with Sarah Jenkins, that the state's Financial Regulatory Board had launched an emergency investigation within hours of the article's publication. Kevin's license was suspended indefinitely. His office, the one he was so proud of, was padlocked, a notice of investigation taped to the glass door. The business he had built on a foundation of lies had crumbled to dust in less than 24 hours. For Brenda, the lifestyle blogger, the humiliation was more personal. Her social media, once a curated gallery of expensive meals and designer clothes, had become a digital bonfire of her reputation. Hundreds of comments poured in, not just from strangers, but from former friends and neighbors, calling her a fraud, a monster, a parasite. The community they had worked so hard to impress had turned on them with a righteous fury. They were pariahs. But the final, most satisfying piece of news came from Sal at the corner store, who had heard it from a neighbor down their street. The pressure had been too much. The partnership forged in greed had dissolved in failure. Neighbors had reported hearing screaming matches lasting late into the night. Brenda had blamed Kevin for his incompetence, for failing to secure the fortune that was within their grasp. And Kevin had blamed her for her insatiable greed, for pushing him too far. 2 days ago, a moving truck had appeared. Brenda had left him, taking whatever she could salvage from the wreckage. They had lost the $77 million, their careers, and their reputation. Now, they had lost each other. I closed the laptop and picked up the small, framed photo of my wife from the table beside me. Her smile seemed to reach across the years, full of the wisdom and strength I had leaned on for so long. She had known this battle was coming and had left me the weapons to fight it. My new life, this quiet apartment, this peaceful morning, it was all her final gift. The money was just a tool. The real prize was this: the freedom to live out my days with the dignity she had always known I deserved. We did it, Ellie, I whispered to the photograph. We brought the house down. From my new balcony, I often watch the sun set over the city, and I think about the strange path my life has taken. Some might call what happened to me a stroke of luck, a 1 in a million chance. But in my heart, I believe it was a gift from God, a way of balancing the scales when I no longer had the strength to do it myself. My life, for a time, became one of those heartbreaking betrayal stories you hear about, the kind that makes you question everything. I suppose this has turned into one of those grandpa stories too, but perhaps a different kind than most are used to. The greatest lesson I learned wasn't about money or revenge. It was that dignity isn't something someone can give you. It's something you must refuse to let them take. For 2 years I allowed my grief to become a fog that hid the truth. But Eleanor's love was the light that finally cut through it. She always used to say that God sees everything, every quiet act of cruelty and every silent prayer, and in the end, the truth will always find its way into the light. Not all grandpa stories are about fishing trips and happy memories. Sometimes they are about the fight to protect what those memories stand for. So many of these betrayal stories begin not with a bang, but with a quiet erosion of respect, a small theft of independence. It's a slow poison, but my story is proof that it is never too late to find the antidote, to reclaim your voice and rewrite your own ending. To all the sons and daughters, fathers and mothers listening, cherish the trust you have, for it is more precious than any jackpot. I've shared my story with you, and I would be genuinely interested to read your thoughts, to hear a piece of your own wisdom in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, perhaps consider sharing it. Not for me, but as a reminder that grandpa stories can also be tales of strength, and that even the most painful betrayal stories can end not with despair, but with dignity. Thank you for listening. May God keep you and your loved ones safe.